What if the one thing you've been told is your greatest marketing asset, that powerful, compelling brand story, is actually the very thing pushing your customers away? Today, we're diving deep into a framework called intent-based storytelling. It's a way of thinking that challenges the idea that a good story is always a good thing. We're going to find out how, in the moments that matter most, your best story might actually be your biggest problem.
The greatest strategic failure in storytelling is believing that a good story is a universal asset, ignoring the neurological fact that the brain filters out every narrative that doesn't serve its immediate goal. And that right there, that's the big idea we're going to unpack. It's a little radical because it reframes the whole problem. The failure isn't that your story is bad. The failure is a good story told at the absolute wrong time. And this is based on a simple fact of neuroscience. Our brains aren't just sitting there passively taking in information. Nope, they're active, goal-seeking machines. They ruthlessly filter out any story, no matter how clever or beautiful, if it doesn't help them with what they're trying to do right now.
So, that brings up a really tough question, right? What if that beautiful, emotionally charged narrative, the one you spent months perfecting, is the very reason your most valuable prospects are clicking away? This is what we call the storytelling paradox. We've all been taught that people love a good story. But the truth is, a person with a specific urgent goal sees an unwanted story as just a frustrating obstacle. I mean, imagine you're rushing to find out how much something costs, and instead you're forced to sit through a 3-minute brand video. That's not a journey, it's a roadblock. And this is the hidden reason so many people bail on the pages that should be converting the best.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll dig into the storytelling paradox itself. Then, we'll get into the solution, matching the narrative arc. After that, we'll dive into the psychology of intent to see the science behind why this all works. From there, we'll get practical with mastering the framework, and we'll wrap it all up with the core takeaway, the right story at the right time.
All right, let's kick things off with the problem, the storytelling paradox. At its heart, this is all about the massive failure of using a one-size-fits-all story. See, most marketing today assumes that you can just take one powerful brand story and splash it across every channel, from a TikTok ad all the way to a pricing page. But that ignores the single most important thing, the user's mindset, their intent. And when you ignore their intent, the whole strategy just falls apart.
Okay, this is the one thing you really have to get. Your user's brain is a ruthless filtering machine. Its number one job is to help them achieve whatever they're trying to do as efficiently as possible. Everything else is just noise. So when a user lands on your site with a mission, like find a price, compare features, get contact info, their brain flips into what we call efficiency mode. And in that state, a slow, winding, cinematic story isn't a delight, it's a burden. It's a frustrating distraction that the brain's filter immediately flags as irrelevant. And what happens next? They're gone.
So if the problem is a rigid, one-size-fits-all story, then the solution, well, it has to be flexible, right? This brings us to our second section, matching the narrative arc. The big idea here is a total shift in thinking. Instead of having one brand story, we have to learn how to change our story's structure, its actual shape, to perfectly match the user's intent in that specific moment. This is how we stop being an obstacle and start being a guide. Now, to really get why this is so important, we need to talk about something called cognitive friction. This is that feeling of annoyance, of impatience that a user gets when what they're seeing doesn't match what they're looking for. It's like trying to listen to a podcast when you're desperately searching for a phone number. Forcing a slow story on a user who's in a hurry creates a ton of this friction. And that friction is the direct cause of high bounce rates. They don't leave because your story is bad, they leave because it's in the wrong place. This slide shows the solution perfectly. We've got two main, opposite ways to structure a story. On the left, there's the curiosity arc. This is for low-intent situations, like someone just scrolling through social media. They don't have a specific goal, so you lead with a mystery or a question. You build suspense. The whole point is to create an information gap that makes the brain say, wait, I need to know the answer to that. But on the right, for high-intent users, you use the inverted arc. This is for someone who just clicked a very specific ad or search result. The whole structure is flipped upside down. You lead with the resolution, the answer, the value. You give them what they came for first, and then you can give them the proof. The goal isn't intrigue, it's pure, simple efficiency.
And here's how this all maps out in the real world. You can see how we match these story arcs to different levels of intent and the platforms where people usually are. For low intent, someone just discovering things on social media, we use that curiosity arc. For medium intent, maybe they're on your email list or seeing a retargeting ad, they're in the research phase, we use a transformation arc. That's your classic before and after story.
It's great for an audience that knows they have a problem and are looking for solutions. And most importantly, for high intent, the decision phase, when someone hits your pricing page from a Google search, you absolutely must use the inverted arc.
So what's the big payoff for doing all this? Well, when you get it right, you achieve something called narrative goal alignment. It's this perfect state of harmony where your story stops being an obstacle and starts being this frictionless, intuitive guide. It respects where the user is at mentally. High-intent users get the speed they need, and low-intent users get the intrigue they want. Your story is now serving them, and because of that, they stick around, they engage, and they convert.
So we've seen the problem and the strategy to fix it. Now let's go a layer deeper and talk about the why. This next part is all about the psychology of intent. We're going to look at the science that makes this framework so good at getting past the brain's natural relevance filter. The first big idea here is something called selective attention. This is the brain's incredible ability to just tune out stuff that's not relevant. You know this, it's the cocktail party effect. You could be in a super loud, crowded room, but you can lock in on one conversation and all the other noise just fades away. Intent-based storytelling is about designing your story to be the one voice your user's brain wants to listen to in that noisy room. By matching your story's structure to their goal, you're making sure your message is the one that gets flagged as relevant. The second key principle is cognitive load. That's just a fancy way of saying how much mental horsepower it takes to understand something. Now, here's the thing we forget. Following a classic story with characters and rising action and all that actually takes a lot of mental energy. And for someone who's just relaxing, that's fine, it's fun. But for high-intent users, those people in efficiency mode, they have almost zero tolerance for unnecessary cognitive load. They're trying to save their brain power for their task, and your complicated story feels like a tax on that energy.
So think of these two story arcs as tools for managing that mental energy. The inverted arc is basically a gift of efficiency. By giving the answer right away, it dramatically reduces the cognitive load. It makes the user feel smart and respected. The curiosity arc, on the other hand, does the opposite, but in a very controlled way. It intentionally creates a tiny bit of cognitive load, a small mental itch, an information gap that actually feels good to resolve by watching to the end.
And that mental itch? Well, there's actually a name for it. It's explained by what's called information gap theory. The idea is super simple. Curiosity happens when our brain notices a gap between what we know and what we want to know. The curiosity arc is a tool that is precision engineered to open up that gap in the first few seconds. You pose a mystery, you show something that doesn't make sense, you ask a provocative question, and boom! You've created this powerful, natural motivation for the viewer to stick around and find the answer. It's the engine of attention.
Okay, enough theory, let's get practical. This section is all about how you can master this framework. We're going to walk through a clear, actionable 3-step playbook that you can start using pretty much immediately. It really is this straightforward.
Step 1. Audit your touch points. Go through every single channel you have, your web pages, your social profiles, your ads, and classify each one as serving a low, medium, or high intent audience. Step 2, and this is the big one, invert the arc. For every single piece of high intent content, you have to fight that urge to build suspense. You have to move the resolution, the answer, the core value into the first 5 seconds. And step 3, create a curiosity gap. For all your low intent discovery content, you do the exact opposite. Lead with something that creates that information gap, a question, a conflict, a mystery.
Now, once you start doing this, you're going to need a new way to know if it's working. Forget about vanity metrics like views or likes. There is one metric that becomes your new North Star, the single best sign that you are successfully aligning your story with your audience's intent.
And that single metric is completion rate. You've truly mastered this framework when the completion rate of your content is optimized for the platform it's on. Think about what that means. A high completion rate on a high-intent landing page means you respected their time and gave them what they needed fast. A high completion rate on a low-intent social video means you successfully created a curiosity gap that held their attention. In both cases, completion rate becomes the ultimate proof of relevance.
And all of this brings us to our final section and really the core philosophy of this entire system. The right story at the right time. This isn't about giving up on storytelling. It's about making it smarter, more strategic, and more effective than ever by finally understanding its proper place.
Let this idea really sink in. The most effective story is the one that knows its place. It doesn't scream for attention everywhere. It understands the user's mindset.
It respects their goals. It recognizes that sometimes the best, most respectful, and highest converting story is actually the shortest one, the one that just delivers the answer and gets out of the way. When it comes to intent, timing is everything.
Because here's the fundamental, unchangeable truth we have to build around. You simply cannot force a complex story on a brain that is looking for a simple answer. It's a neurological impossibility. The brain's goal-seeking filter will win that fight every single time. So this framework isn't about trying to fight that system, it's about aligning with it so perfectly that you become the path of least resistance.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought. I want you to go back and look at your own work, at every piece of content you've made, and ask yourself this simple, honest question. Are you helping your user achieve their goal, or are you just getting in their way? The answer will tell you everything you need to know.
Because at the end of the day, the best marketing doesn't push people through a funnel, it pulls them toward value. Because it tells the right story at the right time. It gets rid of the friction, it respects the user's mind, and it turns your story into the fastest, most engaging path to what they need. And that is the power of intent-based storytelling.